Welcome back, everyone. Well, we're at the chapel here at UPH, Universal Preservation Hall. And my wife and I were here opening night. Who do we run into but Chuck and Rhea? And of course, you know this is Chuck Lamb. There are musicians, and then there are musicians. Chuck happens to be one of those musicians. Phil, first, welcome. It's really nice to finally get a chance to sit down and talk with you.
It's good to see you.
I think we planned this how many times?
For the last 10 years. I think.
Yeah, about 10 years.
Yeah.
Typical musicians.
Right.
I got to start with a quick story. It's the middle of the summer. SPAC. Humid, out, jazz bars in full swing after probably a ballet performance or something where the place is just lit up. It's magical. And we walk in, and there's some seriously good musicians there. We're talking keys, we're talking stand-up bass, we're talking horn, we're talking percussion, and there's Chuck. And Chuck's sitting there kind of unassuming, kind of blending in with everybody. And all of a sudden, as musicians do, they give the nod like, oh, why don't you take a few? And Chuck takes off. And I still remember it, Chuck. I don't know where you pulled the rhythms out of. I don't know where you pulled the chords out of. I don't know what you did. But I was surprised that the other musicians just didn't pack it in. And they were good too, man.
Yeah. I don't remember what gig, but that's.
Well, you played like 300 nights a year or some ridiculous thing like that. Yeah. In addition to teaching and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to start with just some influences. I was listening to North by Northeast, and I think it's a title cut, North by Northeast, and immediately I just recognized this wonderful, not only knowledge of chords and stuff, but this real fusion kind of influence. It reminded me very much of the early Weather Report, the Zawano, the Chick Corea stuff. That influences you, doesn't
absolutely.
it? Yeah, talk to me about
That was my first, so I started out as a drummer, right?
Right.
Percussionist. I was a rock drummer, got into funk, and then I got into this Santana group playing percussion. And then the piano, there's a story to it, but a very natural progression from percussion.
That's an odd progression, by the way.
Well, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of, Chick Corea's incredible drummer. There's a lot of piano players that double on drums or vibes, so.
Of course.
Yeah. But for me, it was super.
So did you have to study then? I mean, did you know how to read music?
No, we just played by ear. It was all about that. It was all about putting a band together, learning the tunes, learning the stuff off the record, copying, organically copying the feels of what they did, and then we'd play.
Now, I noticed because you were rehearsing upstairs. Chuck is performing here tonight at UPH, which is why we're here, and you may hear some musicians in the background. But you had all the charts laid out and stuff, so you know how to read music.
Yes, it's not since I started out by ear and did that for a long time. It's like a classical musician. They've been reading music, and for them to take the page away and try to improvise, it's really difficult. Sometimes impossible for them. Yeah, and so the same is true the other way around, learning by ear and then forcing yourself to learn to read. So I can read, and I'm getting better, but it's
Well, something, I studied piano when I was young, and I learned by ear.
Yeah.
My teacher would make me turn around on the bench, play something, I'd have to turn around to play it. So that's how, and then I can't read a freaking note of music, but I can. Once in a while, I can find my way through something. I made a couple of notes here, so I just want you to know what we're talking about here. Some of the renowned venues, let's call it that Chuck's performed at: Jazz at Lincoln Center, Newport, Monterey, Detroit, Montreal, Hollywood Bowl, Singapore, with the Chinese National Orchestra. How'd you noodle that one?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
So a lot of those are with the, I play with the Brubeck Brothers Quartet.
Sure.
So that one was one of those. And
what's it feel like to travel the world like that?
It feels great, It feels,
I bet
people ask me, oh God, the travel, do you like it? And I said, where I'm going is where I love, I'm going to play music.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
And that's the way you express yourself. You probably express yourself better in keys than you do any other way,
like on
right?
an interview, for instance.
You're like you're doing fine.
Yeah,
by the way.
okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
You want me to ask the obvious questions? And I don't want to.
What's your favorite color?
Yeah,
Something like that.
exactly.
But I'd be stumped.
You know what? I met Chris Brubeck, one of the two brothers in the Brubeck Brothers Quartet, right? Then there's you and the guitarist. What's the guitarist's name?
Mike D'Amico.
Yes, right.
And he's playing with me for this
upstairs
concert tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding. Oh, that's fantastic. But at any rate, I met Chris. We had the best conversation. There's somebody who plays drums, who plays trombone.
Yeah.
And
Bass. He's a
bass
yeah,
also,
yeah.
right? Killer bass player.
Yeah,
That's what I was scrambling
yeah.
to put that together because he invited my wife and I to see a performance of a piece that he had composed with. It was a very eclectic piece with some singers who were making noises, and there were some spoken word and some other things. It was really spectacular, and but in going back and looking at some of the recordings that the four of you have done, I mean, they're phenomenal works.
Thank you.
You're one of the few people that can lay claim to having probably just sat down one-on-one with Dave Brubeck.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he had a wonderful quote about you too, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't he?
Yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
yeah,
I've got to hear it.
yeah.
I'm going to give it.
Yeah,
But talk to me about Dave.
So he, when I got the call to do this gig with the Brubeck Quartet, which is now about 19 years ago I've been with these guys.
That's right.
Which is, it just doesn't happen. A working band, just as a little tangent, to keep a group together is way too expensive. So a lot of what happens is the headliner will travel around the country or the world and pick up a rhythm section locally in the town. So just to be in a band where we've been together that long and the chemistry factor, it's incredible. But I remember when I first got the call to join the group, just in the back of my mind was, when do I meet Dave, right? And then with the band now, it's like 3 months, I'm like, all right, man, when do I meet Dave, and then it's 4 months. I said, and then finally, and he's just, what a beautiful guy, man.
He would have to be. Did you meet Paul Desmond?
No, I didn't.
No, he had passed away by then?
Away.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But, Dave's quote, by the way, I'm gonna have to find it. I don't want to stop the interview. But what was it like? Because he paid you quite a tribute. What's the name of the album you did that's a tribute to Dave Brubeck?
That is called Laminizations.
Yes, right. Because you have all this little twists like lamb chops.
Right.
How appropriate, by the way.
Right.
Why'd you do that album?
Because of Dave. I having met him and got to know him and know what makes him tick a little bit, musically, and
what was that? What was the insight there?
It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so organic where he's coming from, and he's so in the moment, emotionally connected to what he plays. It's just extraordinary, that was a real inspiration. He's just an inspiration all the way around, hanging out with him and playing. He has two pianos. He had two pianos, two 9-foot Baldwins in his house, so he could do duets together, and we just listen to music and share. I remember one thing he shared with me was that it's been invaluable when you're playing jazz standards. The Great American Songbook.
Yeah, sure, of course.
You learn the lyrics to the piece. He said, how could you play a song without knowing the lyrics? So all my subsequent gigs, I'd get out the real book, even though I knew the melody, and I'd read. I was like, it changed, profound change in my approach, my improvisation on the tune. Just, it's kind of 101. It's like, how can you play something if you don't know what it's about? Yeah. And with Dave, it was, we just got into hours and hours of playing Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae, Louis Armstrong, and listening to the lyrics, and Dave would be in tears. He'd go, oh, listen, just... Wow.
I'd imagine, too, not only the words, but the interpretation of the words, the intonations, right?
True.
The way
when
you were just mentioning the singers, I was thinking to myself, those are interpretations themselves.
That's true.
So folding into that is something, right? Man
point.
alive.
Yeah, so.
You know, anytime I ever saw Dave Brubeck in an interview or something, he just epitomized the word cool. You know, that sort of very soft-spoken kind of demeanor. Was he like that?
Yeah, he was. He was a real jazz guy too.
Yeah.
You know, say, hey David, hey man, you want to have some coffee, man? You know,
Where's
but
Miles?
you know, yeah, it was like but it was so genuine. You know, I mean, and he was so joyful. He loved life so much. You know, infectious dude. For sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen. We're going to break this into two parts, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to sit here, pretend like we're going away, and then we're coming back,
Okay.
but in reality, we're just staying right here.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah, yeah,
about?
yeah.
All right, see part one. You can head to our website, Look TV online, and stay tuned for part two.